Hello, everyone. It is Thursday. We are almost to the weekend, and I could not be happier. So, yesterday I was discussing testing and more testing. And so today, the fourth grade took their mock math assessment. Now, y'all, there's always like this huge buildup, there's this huge push for the importance of mock testing because, as I said yesterday, it prepares the students for the real thing. And although a lot of people don't like to hear it, public schools have now become places where we teach to a test because everything depends on those scores and the letter grade that the school achieves at the end of the year. So we're teaching tests, right? So today was the mock test that we have been teaching up to. So it's been stressed. It's important. It's important. It's important. And I say that over and over again because today I want to focus on scheduling. So the students are pretty much given from 8:30 in the morning until 12 noon to take their assessment. That's for Gen Ed students. Gen Ed students are those that are in a typical classroom. They do not have 504 plans. They don't have any accommodations. They don't have an IEP. So this is your everyday typical student. They had from 8:30 until 12 noon to take that test, the mock test today. This was fourth grade. If you had accommodations, if you had a 504 plan, students with 504s, I'm really not going to get into the explanation of that on this video, but let's just say they have some type of healthcare concern that leads them to need accommodations that would assist them in being as successful as possible. It might be extended time. It might be a smaller setting to take the test. It might be test with a familiar person, and I could go on and on. So students that had accommodations, 504 plans and IEPs, not only did they have up until 12 noon, we broke at 12 noon so that they could eat lunch. And then after lunch, they resumed somewhat of a typical schedule. The students that had accommodations were able to come back into the testing room and finish their test. So they essentially had all day other than the time it took them to eat lunch, and lunch is scheduled for 30 minutes. I say all that to say scheduling. Today is a Thursday. Tuesdays and Thursdays, we have tutoring at school. Also today was the spring concert. So, for those students with accommodations that did not finish their test before they went to lunch, who should have had the opportunity to finish it after lunch, were told to go to their rehearsal for the spring concert this evening because the spring concert was this evening. And so the spring concert, y'all, took precedent over them finishing this mock test that they've been hyping up because it is so important, because it leads to the real thing, which leads to the test scores and the data and the grade at the end of the year. You see where I'm going with this? All right, so I literally had students with accommodations that did not finish before lunch and were not able to finish after lunch. And I don't know when they're going to finish that test. I really do not know. So that test was not as essential as we were told it was because the spring concert took precedent. And I was blown. I was so blown. And I laughed because that's public school. That's public school right now. And y'all, I love my principal. She's such a sweet lady. I feel like she really has kids' best interest at heart, and I can always get behind that, because the only reason I have lasted this long in a classroom is because of the kids. There's no other reason that I'm there. And I really, truly do love my kids. I have one little girl. Her grandmother, God rest her soul, recently passed, and she will just randomly start crying. And during the test this morning, she started crying. And the other teacher that was in the room testing with me pointed to her and was like, "She's crying. I don't know why she's crying." I already knew why she was crying, because we've had several bouts of the emotions flaring up. I've taken her into my office. I gave her a notebook, told her to start journaling, told her to start writing letters to her grandmother, told her to feel all the feels, all of that. So when she started crying today, I was like, "Do you need a hug?" And she said yes. So I just sat there and, rocked with the baby for a few minutes, told her she was loved, told her grandma would want her to do well, all that jazz, told her to clean her face, told her she was loved, and to get back to it. And it's moments like that that make my day, that keep me going, because it's for the kids. And I wish I had more of my own kids. My daughter is old. She's 27. So I don't have any babies at home. So being a school teacher, it gives me the opportunity to love on children, because that has been my life's purpose, is children. So anyway, the students that did need to finish their test after lunch, I had 3 of them with me. They came into the room with me. We were working on that test, and one of them, when it was time to go, she wasn't finished. And I didn't feel comfortable telling her, just submit it, even though you're not finished, although I knew she only had 1 day to work on it. But at this point, it had already been proven to me that that test was not as significant and as important, because the ones that were in the spring musical, they weren't even worried about it. They were up there singing on the stage. So I told her, just log out and we'll see what happens, since I got to pull the other kids that didn't get to finish after lunch anyway. Why can't she be part of that? Yeah. And she was the one that was crying and I was rocking earlier, interestingly enough. So tutoring. I'm a tutor. So after work, 3:15 starts tutorial. So from 3:15 to 5:15, we had tutoring. The kids that were in the spring musical had to be back at school no later than 5:30. The spring musical was starting at 6 and is supposed to end at 8. So if you were a teacher that was testing today, and then you also tutor, and then you were also staying for the spring musical, it's over a 12-hour day. Scheduling. And I know it's easier for me to discuss this being in my position. I have been in leadership before. I know that it's always easier to speak about other positions, especially when you're not walking in that capacity. It's always easier to critique, to judge other people doing different jobs. I know not what administration went through to plan today's schedule. And with that being said, it was overload. When I learned that the spring musical was tonight, my first thought was, oh, tutoring must be canceled. Tutoring wasn't canceled. I wasn't staying for the spring musical. They were offering comp time for staying. But if I'm testing all day today, I tested all day yesterday, I'm tutoring, I'm not doing 12-hour days. It took everything in me to stay for tutoring. And thank God I got through tutoring. And I love the third grade babies. They're so eager to please. So, you know, it was just a matter of sticking it out. So I got through the day. I had some food, about to go back to the house, shower, and I'm going to bed. And bed has become my favorite place, especially during the school week. It's just, it's where I can woosah, it's where I can solace, and it's so beautiful outside. It is so beautiful outside. It's 80 degrees, the sun is shining, the wind is blowing. It is gorgeous out here. This is why I love Florida so much. It's amazing for my mental health. But I'm going to bed. So I bid you all an amazing evening. Thank you so much for your time. Peace and blessings.